Gabby Gifford shot in the head, a Democrat. We speak about they, all of these Democrats. Is there some unidentified homogenous group, the radical left? Who are you talking about? People who support political violence. There are two types of people. People who support political violence and people who don't. Actually, there are three types of people. There are people who undertake political violence, and they are the worst. All right? Then there are the people who support political violence, and they are the second worst. And then there are the people who abhor and condemn political violence, and they are all of us. Why is that suddenly complicated in the context of this story? Why is it suddenly tribal? Why is it political or footballified? Here are the people who undertake political violence, and including whoever turns out to have shot Charlie Kirk, and all of the people, for example, who attacked the Capitol in 2021. Here are the people who support political violence, whoever is doing it, and here are the people who don't. That's a scary division, right? That's a really scary division. Because you kind of end up being told, in this context, in this sort of crucible of very carefully cultivated hatred, that anybody who disagrees with you is responsible for the political violence enacted against the people who agree with you. Anybody who disagrees, it's a bit like what they tried to do with the Palestinian peace marches. If you're protesting, if you're demonstrating solidarity with innocent people being killed in Gaza, then you must support Hamas. If you disagree with Donald Trump, then you must support the people who tried to kill him. If you disagree with some of the racist conspiracy theories that Charlie Kirk adhered to, notably the Great Replacement theory, if you disagree with that, then you must somehow endorse his murder. I mean, is that what they're saying? Is it actually a lot simpler than it originally looks? It's all about controlling the narrative. And the narrative is that everybody who disagrees with us, just as we saw with the Reichstag fire, everybody who disagrees with us deserves the violence that we are pretending to condemn and abhor.
Firstly, I want to say, although I didn't agree with most of the stuff that this guy used to say, I think it's a very sad day for democracy. Nobody should ever be killed over views or words. It's just completely unacceptable.
Do I sound... I mean, obviously I agree with every single syllable of what you've said, but do we not... We say that?
Well, we don't know why he was killed because there's no...
Well, exactly. So you can't... I mean, I don't know. This might just be me being a bit weird. It happens. I'm sure you know that, Steve. But we don't know that he was killed for his views or his words. It seems extremely likely. But,
I suspect it wasn't from an angry ex or something like that.
No, I do too. Barry Breivik, there was a multi-page manifesto, and it seems to me that you wait until you reach that moment. It's really stuck into the question of how... Well, what the motivation was and how representative the killer is of any broader movements or opinions.
We have no idea.
Well, exactly. Go back to the other questions if you can, if you would.
Of course. So with Charlie Kirk, I think he was a very popular figure, amongst the right in America, and he built up a lot of fame over the last few years, and he was completely bought into that MAGA circle, and he's been on the payroll of the Trump administration to the tune of $300,000 a year.
That's on the record, is it? It is on the record.
You can check it.
No, I don't.
Publicly published his salary.
Okay.
And he was picked up because he was a very good debater, although we've seen debates where he's been dismantled by Oxford students and what have you. But I think he feels...
At least he went out there in the online age. If he's going out there and actually engaging with people, then he's got a lot more... If courage is the right word, and some of the other people occupy the same space.
Yeah. The thing is, he's pushing certain points of view, which I don't want to go into too much detail. But, well, if you want me to, there were certain things he was coming out with which were very good. I agreed with certain things he said.
Like what?
Other things, well, family values, promoting promoting bring up children in a safe and stable environment.
Trying anybody's in favour of unstable environment, are they? I think did he say that Taylor Swift should submit to her husband at some point?
Yeah, he said, which I tend to agree with. I think he was pushing it from a certain point of view. Certain things were common sense any decent person would agree with. A lot of the stuff was things that he was pushing, things like the great replacement theory on the record.
He's one of those, is he? Hang on, I think we may have that. Let's just have a listen to that, just to be absolutely clear.
You know, it's dramatic. The invasion of the country. We're going to talk more about that. We're going to talk about how the other side has openly admitted that this is about bringing in voters that they want, they like, and honestly diminishing and decreasing white demographics in America. We're going to say that part out loud because so many people in the corporate media are afraid to talk about it.
Wow, I mean, bits of corporate media I'm familiar with never talk about anything else, but that is just not true, is it? The idea that senior Democrats have come out and said we are delivering the white population with non-white people because non-white people are more likely to vote for us.
I mean, that's just scratching the surface of a lot of the falsities he was promoting, going back to COVID and beyond. He even was very vocal criticism he expressed about the Civil Rights Act of 1964.
Well, he didn't like that.
How can you possibly say that wasn't a good thing? Giving civil rights to hundreds and thousands, millions of black Americans. It's just shocking that but unfortunately that was gaining a lot of traction. And if you compare it, for example, to the shooting of the Democratic lawmakers, was it Melissa Hoffman and her husband? They were murdered.
Yes.
While still going on. That most people have forgotten about it completely because they were older, middle-aged people. They didn't have a following. They're just politicians. But this guy had a core appeal to younger Americans. Maybe
did Trump mention Melissa Hoffman in his his tribute to Charlie Kirk?
Not that I'm aware of.
You should check that.
I mean, when it happened, when that murder took place, he was very quick to blame the left. He said it was a radical left, and it's been very much publicised that the guy who's going to stand trial for it was a hardcore right-wing Christian fundamentalist. That's openly in the media. Obviously, the guy's going to have his trial and have his sentencing, but what immediately the first thing Trump did was promote that this was the
Clearly, you know more about you're well. I mean, the track of the Trump is a very helpful contribution at the moment, but a complete misrepresentation of the facts and a desperate attempt to sow further division, even when something as tragic as both of these killings has happened, seems to me to be very much on brand and very much what I would expect him to do. Have you been surprised by the scale and the nature, the quantity and the quality of the public response?
Not at all. I think somebody that high profile, absolutely, he's going to get a huge amount of media attention. He was already very much in the media. I mean, Fox News and all the right-wing channels, he would be a darling that they would put up any time because he was part of that circle of promotion. So he was elevated, probably well above his status, because he was a good debater. I mean, no getting away from that. But I think he was just in the right time, right place at the right time to be put into that position. And sadly, it's cost him his life.
Let me read you a few texts just to highlight what I'm doing today. The first is from Samuel. You literally called a racist and intentionally divisive person courageous. You can't make this up. By Samuel. Des writes, I love you, James, but if you actually knew about Kirk or were a black, Latino or gay American afraid to walk the streets, you'd be a lot less liberal about his death, says Des in Sheffield. And Angela writes, what you're doing is really wrong in my opinion. If you were shot dead, presumably for your political views, would you want a right-wing American radio station to ask Americans to bring in with their
please like the video
of your views?
and share, and like I said, subscribe if you're not already a subscribed member. If you are interested in my content,
arriving at those incredibly contradictory conclusions. A couple of messages early on this hour suggesting that I am somehow pleased about this terrible killing. That's projection, mate.
I won't read your messages out. I just want you to reflect upon what you've said and why you've said it. What you are acknowledging there is that if somebody from the other side of the political divide, and I'm still not entirely clear why Charlie Kirk sat, for which I do apologise, I should probably know. But what you're saying when you suggest that you can hear glee in my voice or anything other than sadness at the killing and confusion at the character, what you're doing is projecting how you would feel if somebody you disagree with politically were to be killed. And so there's a degree of shame and a degree of guilt in what you're doing when you pretend to think that you can hear things in my voice that you know subconsciously would be in your voice in the event of
one more go with the resistance man, we're over there.
Assassination.
Dumbbell presses.
I'm wasting my breath suggesting that you reflect upon that. But goodness me.
Appreciate, like, and share for the video. Like I said, it helps out.
From space.
It's work done.
Matt's got 2 children, 2 young children. Immediately, your fellow feeling, your humanity takes you to a place of sympathy and grief. But given that he lived and tragically died very much in public debate, in the public space, immersed in public discourse, it would be ridiculous and absurd not to explore what his contributions to public discourse were. And if you don't like the evidence of what his contributions to public discourse were, that's for you to deal with. That's for you to work through. 36 after 10. And speaking of my inbox, I think on a morning like this, Idiot's Corner would be an inappropriate turn of phrase to deploy. But let's just work through those 3 that arrived at the same time. You literally called a racist and intentionally divisive person courageous. You can't make this up, says Samuel. I said that he was courageous for debating publicly with people he disagreed with. There seems to me to be an awful lot of discourse, particularly online, driven by anonymous characters or by people who are entirely insulated from the consequences of their opinions, who would never sit down and debate. I imagine that he probably got accused of using his position, and because he was very good at it and a professional debater, he was condescending or bullying, or he should never have been debating with people that were less adroit as him. And I'm, forgive me, fairly familiar with that accusation, which usually comes from people who have failed to successfully argue with somebody. So it is courageous. If he turns out to be a racist and an intentionally divisive person, then in that company, he becomes a courageous example of that, simply, Samuel, by dint of engaging with people that disagree with him. A lot of people don't do that. The second one, if you actually knew about Kirk, or were a black Latino or a gay American afraid to walk the streets, you'd be less liberal about his dad. Says Des in Sheffield. I wouldn't.
My bad, guys. So again, subscribe to the channel. I can promote more of my fitness content. Again, I have more postings be available. Again, every like helps. Keep on subscribing. And thank you again. Gotham. Let's get this work done. We got 2 more goals around. A little bit of calisthenics. So let's get this work.
Nobody knows why this happened. Nobody knows for sure why this happened, and nobody knows. He appears to have the first inkling of who did it. It is 10:38. Kevin is in Guildford. Kevin, what would you like to say?
Hi, Kevin. I'm very nervous. First time calling.
Take your time. There's nothing to be nervous about. I'll
I am aware of Charlie Kirk. I'm probably more aware of him because I have a 17-year-old son who follows politics very closely. When I went in bed last night, 9 o'clock, he rang me and he said, Charlie, first thing I did in the morning this morning was open the news and saw he was dead. The first thing I opened was, I'm desperately sorry that the guy there. Nobody should be shot for their opinions.
All right. Let's get more motivated. Probably another resistance band workout shortly, a little bit after.
pay for it, and he was accepting of that, and he compared it. He compared it to road traffic accidents. He said, if you want to drive a car, there's going to be 50,000 people killed on the road a year. If you want to save 50,000 lives, we don't drive cars, and that's how he compared it, which I think is.
Well, it's a very good undergraduate six-minute debating point that doesn't really stand up to scrutiny, but presumably makes for a powerful viral clip.
Grab out a distance band, about to do some bicep curls.
Is going viral at the moment.
From people who are not about it.
From people who are opposed to his view.
Right. So that's not very nice. So that's close to gloating, right?
Yeah.
That's the live by the sword, die by the sword argument that is around and about. What's your boy's view on it? You don't have to answer that. It's none of my business. If you want to share it, I'd be interested to know.
Well, he's against right-wing activists both here and wherever they are. I believe that my son's view of politics is shared by probably most sane people in this country.
There's not many of us left.
Oh, God.
I hear what you're saying. So have you been surprised, or does your son's engagement make it less surprising to you the scale of response that we're seeing in this country particularly?
The scale of response is probably in this country is surprising because I would hazard a guess, I have no idea, but I would hazard a guess that the vast majority of people have never heard of the guy.
Yeah, I think that's true. But not 70-year-olds. Not people who spend a lot of time on political social media.
Yeah, you reminded me of something else I just wanted to say. And I think it's quite important. When my son told me about this morning, he said it's gone absolutely mental on TikTok. The second video I saw was graphic, and I think they all of these graphic videos I don't want to see things like that, and you can't unsee it. I'm going to be honest, I didn't think I was ever going to be calling in to talk about Charlie Kirk on mess. I didn't know that we were going to talk about it in this situation where he died, because I'll be honest, I'll be very open. I hated and despise everything he stood for, and I despise him as a person. Everything that he said is everything I go against.
There must have been some, the first caller today, when I knew a lot less about him than I do now, suggested that some of the things he said, the problem with family values as a phrase is that you think, well, who's against family values? And then you learn that somebody, not him necessarily, didn't need to be, doesn't think that, gay people should be having children, or so.
Alright. Next we're gonna get. Alright, thank you, Mean Green. Alright. Calisthenics next.
But it was this visceral feeling in myself where I was like, this
Alrighty, people, we almost done. Get the rest of this out of the way.
Explains the speed of the use of the word martyr, and this is why people are, I don't know, perhaps a little bit hyperbolically reaching for words like right snack. They don't want to acknowledge that you can find his opinions repellent and find his killing disgusting and heartbreaking, because he is a human being who was in the business of defending his position, as far as I can. That position I think is indefensible. The reason I use the word courageous at the top of the show is that a lot of people in positions that I can remember would never ever actually seek to defend them in hostile territory. And he used to do them.
Yeah, it's a man that went out of his way to go on to college campuses where college campuses, they are really more or less winners because of that, because of the way they mature.
All right.
Naively and stuff like that, so you go to their faith because South Park made a great parody by basically a movie because it's very easy for him to do, so he can debate with these very good easily. But if you want to go onto a stage where it's amongst more mature minds, he's going to break down. I mean, how good the most is like the, but it's like one of the videos that make destroys his reputation really in this country.
All right, guys. One more set of dips, and we are done the workout for the day.
Homosexual relations and stuff like that. It's that kind of thing where he's like,
All right.
as much as I can, I don't think it's something to kill.
Like you, I don't want us to turn into a let's pat each other on the back for how decent and humane we are, but I'm even a little bit uncomfortable with you using words like despise, and I think that's maybe a bit silly because you've been completely unclear in your views and in your empathy and your compassion.
All right.
That's why people are very worried about what happens next, because I think he had words to say. He had words to say about empathy itself, didn't he? This character,
Yeah, he said that empathy was a new term that's been created by basically my generation. That is very dangerous and stuff like that.
All right, guys. We are done. Man. All right. We are done this morning's workout segment. And please, if you would join me on my next workout segment, probably be tomorrow afternoon. Depending on where time you live at, I will be posting. Again, if you haven't, please subscribe to the channel, like and share. Become a member of my Patreon. Join my other social media platforms via Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and also Twitch. And then, like I said, we're going to be having more content being uploaded. But guys, I'd like to thank y'all for joining in. And please be tuned in for my next workout session. And until then, have a great rest of y'all morning. Be great.